this morning, sunshine through the clouds, feeling the healing, laughter all around. Rise up and stand tall, joy in every stride. No more tears to fall, let your spirit guide. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Blessed Girl Summer Podcast, where we learn to live, love, and grow. It is your girl, Tisha, here and super excited. I love when I have guests in the room and we get to kind of conversate and talk more about these things that are on our hearts and in our minds. And today I have a special guest with me. I have Belinda Rose Young. Welcome, Belinda. I love for you to, thank you for being on the podcast, but I love for you to share a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Tisha, for having me on. Guys, it's a big honor to be on anything that Tisha is doing. So I'm so excited to be here. So I wear many hats. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a researcher and a scientist. I'm also a leader over a nonprofit. So I wear a lot of different hats. I'm focused a lot on trauma prevention and violence prevention and just making our communities safer.
Yeah. I love when you said, I'm a researcher. Girl, that is, I think that is such a special gift. Thinking of myself, child, I am not a researcher. I think of how often unfortunately, I just dive into things without necessarily researching it. And so I know that there is like just a level of patience, a level of curiosity, like a level of intrigue that you have to, because research takes a minute. Like it's not always like Google and then the answer just comes up. So I did want to point that out because I think that is definitely a gift.
Yeah, absolutely. I was definitely always that kid, like, trying to figure things out and, trying to manipulate. And yeah, it takes time. It takes time, but God's taught me a lot of life lessons through it. So it's been good.
Girl, I can imagine. I can imagine because he'd be trying to teach me, and I just be like, I really don't want to do this. So I definitely am sure that shows up in many ways, and we'll probably hear some of those ways as we dive into today's topic. So we've been doing a series on soul care and self care, and just the importance of being able to take care of ourselves holistically. I've been able to talk to some other folks about like self care and that outward stuff, and how honestly, like I always, a lot of times I kind of downplay that a little bit, like soul care having a higher priority than self care. But when I had this conversation, it kind of became equal. Like they both hold a value of importance, and typically, for most of us, when we begin to place a priority on our soul care and even our self care, is when we've experienced a time of depletion of some sort, where we didn't have that care, where it wasn't taking place. And so I'd love to hear if that's true for you and what that experience was like for you.
So unfortunately, there's been several times where I felt really depleted throughout life. And usually what I've noticed, it's really been when there's been new introduction or some sort of shift in my life that I haven't properly prepared for. I didn't take the time and effort to really think about it. And so, whether it was becoming a mom for the first time and, trying to navigate that and try to be all things to this little itty bitty baby that needs me. Or most recently, graduating and thinking about next, what's kind of going on, while also navigating the pandemic and the after effects of the pandemic. So there's definitely a lot that kind of has happened that's affected soul. I can go into more details now
My next question was gonna be, can you tell us a little bit more about how that was, like, especially Well, you can pick anyone, but what I was thinking about was the transition from graduation and the pandemic and
Mhm.
having a little one. Like,
Yeah,
what was that experience like?
it was horrible. It was horrible. The pandemic and around that time, it not just the pandemic, but it was just the season it was in, shifted a lot of things for me. So I came to the university knowing what I was going to do. Like, I'm a strategist by nature. I plan. I'm always thinking about the future. And so I knew what I was going to do. And things shifted quite a bit around that time, as I was experiencing new things that were going on just personally, and other things. It became very clear that I could not go into this role that I had always dreamed of, stepping into being a professor. That is why I went back to school. I wanted to teach. I have a gift for teaching. I love teaching. I love being able to inspire. Like I said earlier, I was always a kid trying to figure stuff out. And I love not just finding it out, but sharing it with others in a way that they get it. And so there was an identity shift that happened. What does life look like not being a professor, and what's next? Because I've been telling everyone for 13 years that I'm gonna be a professor. So what does life look like now? And so for me, it took a lot of self-reflection, a lot of, I know we'll dig into this a little bit more, but it it was a big shift for my identity. That's probably the biggest thing I can say. And it it took me inward. I definitely drew inward, and I was in a place, already an introvert, but in a place where, I was unsure of myself, and that affected boundaries, that affected self-confidence, that affected just mental state in a lot of different ways. And so, yeah.
Wow. So when we first started, I knew that that researcher piece was going to come back some kind of way during this conversation because you said, I'm strategic. Like it's about strategy, and I feel like that's a part of that researching. Like you get all the information, you got all the details, you understand how this should play out and how this should work, and so you have this formula and you have this plan, and it's weird because I'm not a researcher, but I'm definitely like strategic, and so really like you got it in control. At least you think you do as to what
Mhm.
you're doing, and then that control just becomes an illusion.
Mhm.
Um, and so now suddenly you're shaken with like I like what you said. Like, who am I? Who am
Mhm.
I? And what the heck am I doing? doing now?
And not just who am I, but I'm having to figure out who am I while also navigating, what I was saying earlier, the fact that I'm shifting in front of others. Like, it's not something that I could do it so much completely behind the scenes, because families like,
Mm-hmm.
well, you just finished your PhD. Like, what are you doing with it? Like, you just went through this intense program. What are you going to do if it's not what you said you wanted to do? And so, um, learning to be comfortable with not having all the answers, and learning
Mm,
to just be okay with saying, not only just I don't know, but it's okay to shift. And through that season, I really leaned more into God. Okay, it's not this. What is it that you've had planned the whole time, but I'm just now maybe figuring out, or maybe my heart's open to what you wanted me to do. And it's been a beautiful journey of just getting to know God's mind more about, who I am and what the plans that He has for me. And that's involved going back to school and doing other things that we can talk more about. But
hmm
it's definitely been a journey. The last year and a couple months has been a journey.
wow. I'm gonna put some respect on it and call you Dr. Belinda. I'm going to do that, okay? Because that is that's a feat. Like that is something that was, I'm sure not an easy journey.
Mm,
And I think all of the effort and work that you put into doing that and accomplishing that, toppled with now explaining to other people and really not even having an explanation or explanation that will make sense to them,
mhm,
right? after you've invested this amount of time. And I definitely can relate to that. But what I also know is that even the things, like all things work together for our good,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
even the things that we feel like maybe was like I don't want to say a waste of time, but maybe not a wise investment or not the right
Mhm.
direction, God
Mhm.
most certainly brings it back full circle.
Absolutely.
But my question, or
Mhm.
where I'm kind of going with it, is that other people piece, right? And I think a lot of times when it comes to like our soul care or our self care, sometimes it's not that we don't want to invest in it, but sometimes it's how other people respond to it that
Mhm.
like hinders us from leaning in.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I don't know if I'm being clear, like with where I'm trying to go with it, but I'm just wondering, um, what type of impact did the outside world community, I guess both positive and negative,
Mhm.
have towards, you making this decision or prioritizing your soul care?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. For me, and part of this is going to be my upbringing, my background. I'm from a Caribbean family. You are taught, regardless of the island, to work very hard overall. But Caribbean people, if there's one listening, you know that we have a lot of thoughts and opinions, and some of us are very outspoken. Most of us are very outspoken, and so it can, when you don't have your life together, when you don't know what is, you're going to hear a lot of opinions about it. And so for me, at first, it was hard. So my natural instinct, to answer your question, wasn't to do soul care or self care. My natural instinct was to figure it out so I could have an answer for people. I'll just be honest. That's where I was. But it took me kind of navigating that and getting more comfortable the closer I was drawing to God, getting more comfortable with not having a fully formed answer yet. To then be like, okay, well, I'm still in this season. How can I protect my soul? How can I protect myself, my body? And that took me then instituting boundaries. So I had to institute boundaries before I could start doing soul care and self-care, if that makes sense. Like I had to get very clear on um when I was going to accept from people and when I was not going to accept from people. And that meant limiting some of those voices. And that meant stepping away. That meant maybe not answering some phone calls. that meant just not engaging in some conversations and being very comfortable with that. And I'll say this as well. For me to institute boundaries, again, I'm on this walk with God. For me to institute boundaries meant me also facing some of my past trauma and
Mm.
understanding why I care or wanted to please people or cared so much about their opinions. And so I had to do a lot of underneath work, a lot of deep work before I could start doing intentional soul care. I mean, that could be a part of the process, right? But actually really putting things into place. Like I had to really understand more about me. And so that was a process. That's a journey.
That is, and it requires courage because now you're doing something against the norm, against your natural inclination, but then against your environment as well. Like the way that you are functioning as a family, like the way that, and it's not necessarily just one individual. It's not just like, okay, me and my husband, and we have to work and I'm going to talk. Well, no, now I have like this other sibling, maybe, or this parent, or this aunt, or all these different people who are vested in my life, right? Who have been around and are vested in my life. But now I have to set up parameters for them
Hmm.
while still honoring the value that you bring, but honoring where God wants to take me and what like you said, protecting your soul care space. So I love that. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm.
So can you share with us a little bit more after you set up those boundaries? What did soul care look like for you?
So first and foremost, soul care really meant, after setting up those boundaries, continuing to do some more inner healing. And so spending more time with God, getting very clear on what voices I was allowing. So I was removing voices, right? But what voices am I now allowing into my life? Being very thoughtful about who my online mentors were going to be, for instance. So, listening to podcasts like Tisha's, right? Those that I know are sound, right? And can help me um, do and be better as I'm navigating this process. And so for me, that was part of it, getting very clear on like the voices I was going to allow into my life. Continuing to do some of that deeper um, um, inner healing overall, and then starting to vision again. Starting to allow myself to say, okay, what does next look like, and um, what has God been showing me over my life? I heard someone say the other day that some things that we go through in our childhood and younger age, even if it's negative, right, can sometimes be a reflection or an indication of where we're going. So, they were saying Moses was drawn out of water, but later he parted the water, right? And so like there can be things that are clues or indications, right, of where you're going. And so for me, I needed to be able to dream. I needed to be able to have the vision. I needed to be able to say, God, what is it that you're saying and what are you doing? And having that clarity was helpful as I was starting the process to go back to school, right? Which is a whole nother conversation that, unless they're watching your YouTube video now, many people don't know in my family. And that's okay. That's okay. Like I've been very selective about who I brought into that circle, because you just wrapped up your PhD. Why are you back in school again? Right. And navigate. And so there's just been some things I've been more intentional since, again, walking that path about who I let in and what I'm sharing and when I share it, and being very comfortable with that. But that took a lot of inner healing to get to that point.
Yeah, yeah. It's reminding me, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and she was talking about being mindful of who we share things with, right? And I think sometimes you can clearly see, or you have a feeling that I probably shouldn't have shared something with someone, but we don't always want to um, own that space, like spend time, think in that space. And what she challenged me to do, because I was like, well, yeah, I did see X, Y, and Z, but I don't have time. Like, I don't have time to really focus on that right now. I'm just forward. And she was like, no, let's take some time. Let's take some time and just, let's process this for a little bit, because you need to know who's in your circle.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know where people stand. You need
Mm-hmm.
to know, like, who you should be sharing dreams with. You need to know you need to know who's going to be the 50th person to find out after, like you need to know those things. And I mean, I did it. I sat back and did it, but I was so quick to, I think, not want to do the work, because I think there is a degree of, at the same time that you're sitting in it, there is a degree of like mourning or sadness that you actually have to sit in it,
Yeah.
right? Or that you might have to adjust or shift this relationship. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of times we push away from wanting to sit in that.
Mm-hmm.
And but through sitting in it, what I learned was, and it's okay, right? Like I might not be able to share this part of me with you now, or maybe even later, but it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can still, if I work on that within me, I can still honor you right where you are.
Yeah.
And not and honor me at the same time, you know?
Mhm.
And so I completely understand what
And
you're
I'll take
saying.
a step further, because what you said is those are all things I've had to work through. You know, what I guess one of the ways I would have framed it is I was avoiding wanting to maybe not include someone in, in part of my journey. But what I've learned is when I let go of that, when I became comfortable with actually processing and thinking about who should be a part and who should be included when. And I talked more to God about it. He was so gracious to bring people into my life who could handle what I was doing and where I was going. Right. And so while there are people that might not have been removed from my life because maybe their family or they're good friends, they just can't handle this part. He brought other people that had similar dreams or similar backgrounds or were going through similar situations to connect with. And they may be forever people, they may not be, but he knows that we need community, we need relationships. And if other people can't handle it, it's okay. And I think that's one thing that I'd want to encourage people. I've been through that season a couple times in my life. Like, as there's been shifts, some people you can't always carry with you, in terms of where you're going. And that's okay. There will be other people. God is faithful to bring other people to support you along the way.
So true. And I love that. And we can't be afraid, right?
Mhm.
We can't be afraid to trust him. We
Mhm.
can't be afraid to be obedient, right? To
Mhm.
move. Um, so I know that you shared the strategies that you've utilized. Um, I would love to know like what you feel was the most effective. So, okay, well, let's go back just a little bit because you were now, so you've gotten your PhD,
Mhm.
and now you understand that there's something else that you've been called to do, and you have to make a different adjustment.
Mhm.
How did you get to? How did you know that there was something different? Like,
Mhm.
what was it that was like? Wait a minute, there's this is not the end of
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
this this learning journey.
You know, for me, it was pausing again and really thinking about the different connections in my life, things that I had to put on pause, even to do the PhD program, even to pursue the path of professorship, uh, and also drawing closer to God and really asking questions. And sometimes he'll speak to your spirit right away. Sometimes he'll show you different things. It might be like, and this is something that happens to me often, where maybe you're on Instagram or you're on YouTube or you're in a place and you're hearing reoccurring themes, like you're hearing the same thing or the same word. I'm like, okay, God, you're really trying to talk to me right now. Don't ignore those things. God is trying to get your attention. Um, and so for me, there were a couple things that came up, and it wasn't, and you said this well earlier, it wasn't disregarding everything that I'd learned through my PhD. It just was that the professorship wasn't the end result. And so taking everything that I learned there and now understanding business so that I can bring what I've learned more into the community. So rather teaching directly, do it in a different way. But also writing. And that's been an interesting journey that I've been on. When I was younger, like up till high school, I did a lot of creative writing and I loved it. But when I got to college and pursued professorship, there is no creative writing. Like, it's very academic writing. And so I've always been a good writer. I've always been, a wonderful storyteller through writing. But I had to shift to fit this dream that I had. And so God has been igniting that in me again and has challenged me to write some books around similar topics that I've been studying, but to storytell and teach through writing. And so um, it's been really refreshing to be able to go back to something that I love and to have the okay to do it. Because for so long I was told, no, that's not how you write here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it was breadcrumbs. It was spending a lot of time with God. It was being patient and saying, and that's been the biggest thing, sitting and being patient with being in the in-between. Like, I'm not where I thought I was going to be. I'm not where I am yet, but I'm here, and I'm getting comfortable with the journey of learning more about you and learning more about me and learning about where you want to take me. And that took a while because that's not my nature. That's not me.
I think a lot of people, everybody I have interviewed, has the
Mhm,
same thing. Like relaxing, being calm, not being in control
mhm,
is difficult. It's
mhm,
very difficult.
mhm.
And I love that you brought that up because I feel like God is always speaking, but like, are we still enough to listen? Are we still enough to hear Him? And He will do those reoccurring things. Like, He will make it clear to us if we're paying attention. Someone once told me it's like like the TV, there's like these electrical waves going on in the sky or whatever. And that is how we're getting like the reception and stuff like that. But we don't see that. We just turn the TV on and then we get all the channels. But
Mhm,
that flow is continuously happening. It's
mhm,
when we
mhm.
turn it on that we get to see it. And so what they were saying was like God is always talking. He's
Yeah,
always speaking, but is our TV on?
yeah,
Like, are we listening?
yeah,
And so, like, as you were talking, there are so many things. I think, in addition to actually turning the TV on and listening, are we doing? Because he will tell you, he will tell you what to do.
yeah.
But are you actually? So then it becomes that time of carving out the time
Mhm,
to hear him,
mhm,
but now being super intentional to obey him
mhm,
and
mhm.
making the space to obey. Because typically, from my experience, the stuff he wants us to do is not the stuff that we want to do, or the stuff that we not that we don't always want to do it, but it's typically not the things that are on our plan
Mhm,
or
mhm,
is our agenda. Like
mhm,
it'll make you be like, okay, Lord. Like it'll stretch you.
mhm,
It will
mhm,
stretch you. And
mhm.
so yeah, that's what I was thinking about when you were sharing that part.
And if I can just add one more thing, in case there's somebody out there listening, like, I don't know, like, I'm not really like picking things up. Let me tell you, God made you. He designed you. He has a perfect purpose for you, and He wants you to figure this out, maybe more than you want to figure it out. So
Mm-hmm.
God is faithful to keep at it. Like, He's not like us. He's not going to get, or maybe like me, like, I really tried to tell him, like,
That Dr. Belinda.
he really wants us to get it. And when someone shared that with me a while back, that gave me so much encouragement. And so if there's someone like that out there, like, He doesn't want you to miss it. And He is faithful to redirect you or to bring something back or give another opportunity for you to do the things that He's designed you to do. And so uh, just know that He wants you to do it more than maybe you want to. And so you'll get there. You'll understand what it is.
He absolutely does. Thanks for sharing that part. Well, guys, we are at the point where I love to share like a practical tip of that you can use to implement or integrate into your life so that you can secure your peace, find more joy and happiness in your everyday living. And today's tip is about exercising gratitude. And I think that sometimes we can get to a place where um, it's kind of hard to figure out what we're thankful for, what we're grateful for, just because there's so much always to do, so much that we're striving for or we're pursuing. always another level or another step to what we need to do before we, reach that goal. And so sometimes it's hard to just sit in gratitude. And so um, the tip for today is to create a gratitude tree. And this can be done in several different ways. You can literally go outside and get some leaves and take them and write on them like what you're thankful for. So for each leaf, you can write, I'm thankful for my family, I'm thankful for my husband, whatever it is that you're thankful for. And then you can actually get like a paper and kind of put like a collage together and put these leaves on a tree, like draw a tree and put those leaves on a tree. Or you can do this with clay. So if you have some type of clay, you can make the form of a leaf and then carve in what you're grateful for. And I like the clay idea, especially if you get the clay that hardens, because then you have something to remind you of what you're grateful for. And that could be your trinket, that could be sitting on the side of your end table, or something that you're, putting candy in for your guests. It's just a continuous reminder of what you're thankful for. So we call it the thankful tree. You can do it out of paper, however you want to, but it's just a way to remind yourself about the things that God has been doing. Because I don't know about y'all, but it is very easy to forget where you have come from, to forget the things that you have been blessed with. I used to always say to myself, Lord, please forgive me. Because every time I turn around, I'm asking, like I said, I wanted the house. Now I got the house. Now I want the car. Or now I want the, the next thing. And so help me to be able to be grateful and thankful for the things that I have been blessed with. And so wanted to definitely leave that with you. You can also write a list of the things that you're grateful for and put it on your phone. Mm-hmm. And when you find yourself doubting, or when you find yourself trying to remember why you're doing the stuff that you're doing, you can pull up the notes on your phone and remind yourself of the things that that God has done and that He's going to continue to do. So that's my tip for today, Belinda. I don't know if you have anything you want to add to the gratitude space.
I mean, I was just thinking about the clay. I was like, that's what I want to do. I was just envisioning the color. I was like, I'm gonna put it there.
Yeah.
I really like having something that's just there for you to
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So one thing I've been asking everybody that has been on the podcast is if they could describe their perfect retreat or soul oasis, what would that look like?
So for me, it would definitely involve being away, something with water, and giving ample time for me to do some writing, some reflecting, some journaling, with some time with friends, with good friends, that understand you and are okay with sometimes being around you, sometimes not, for the fellow introverts that just need space,
I know, just want to be by yourself. It's okay.
So just time to reflect and to be grateful, and also just to cast vision. That's a big part for me. I always like to be, as I'm walking this journey with God, to get clarity on the next thing and what looks like, so I can be very intentional with my steps, with my prayers. But yeah, that's probably the best thing for me.
I love that. And I feel like out of all of these conversations that I've had, I really feel like even more so, I think it's confirming more so in me that oasis, that space, that ability to do that is a space that God desires for us. Mm-hmm. He desires for us to be able to be consistently in a space where we can commune and connect and envision and grow in Him. Yeah. And so, child, I'm on a whole journey. Like I'm gonna get us all there. To get us all there. I would love for you to share with everyone how they can connect with you, any things that you have coming up or things they should be looking out for.
Yeah, so if you want to connect with me, I'm really active on two platforms. One is LinkedIn, and that's just Belinda, Belinda dash Rose or hyphen Rose, last name Young. Also on IG, and that's Belinda Rose Young, no dash in between. It's my handle. And I would say connect with me. If you just want to come and say hi, that's cool. But I'm really putting out more leadership content and information on just health and healing and purpose and just helping you understand your purpose and where we're going. So you'll also see soon just some behind the scenes with me starting my writing journey and working on my first few fiction books. So I don't have a date for that yet, but if you follow along, then you'll be able to see.
Oh, what about the podcast?
The podcast, yes. So Seasons in Stewardship is the podcast. Shout out to Tisha for helping me get started. There's a lot of great content on there. Again, around the seasons that we go through, the highs and lows and how to navigate that. That podcast, we finished season 1 in late May, and we'll be coming back sometime in the fall. I don't know the exact date yet, but yes, you will get updates if you're following along, mostly on IG. So again, handle Belinda Rose Young.
Wow. Y'all got to check it out. As you can tell just from our conversation, Belinda is a wealth of insight and information. And we know that researcher in her will have you fully satisfied with the information she shares. Um, well, as always, guys, I like to remind you that the best gift that we can give ourselves is to be intentional about securing our peace. We have the ability to make any season in life a blessed girl summer season, whether it be raining, winter, or you just navigating some tough things. You have the ability to make it a blessed girl summer. And so remember, it's all about your mindset. And until next time, be well and stay at peace. Talk to you later.
Woke up this morning, sunshine through the clouds, feeling the healing, laughter all around. Rise up and stand tall, joy in every stride. No more tears to fall, let your spirit guide. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems. Hear the drums calling, dancing to the dawn. Keep on believing, strength in every song. Blessed go summer, shining through the night. Brighter than thunder, you're the morning light. Life keeps on spinning, hold on to your dreams. You're always winning, more than it seems.